Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we are going to be doing an article on nutrition education program as we have done the planning programs of nutrition education. Now we are going to see how different programs have been planned and executed and what results have been found. Today in today's class and in the coming class we'll be doing two nutrition education programs and what results have been found. So this is an article published in Environmental Health and Preventive Medicine Journal in 2015. The title of the article is Effect of a School-Based Nutrition Education Program on Adolescents' Nutrition Knowledge, Attitudes, and Behaviors in Rural Area of China. So it was published in 2015. Let us see the abstract first. An abstract is a summary of the introduction, methods, and main findings. It is a brief overview what was done in the research. The first are the objectives. This study aimed at examining the effect of nutrition education program on adolescents' knowledge, attitudes, and behavior in relation to nutrition in China. In methods, a cluster randomized intervention trial study was employed. So what was done? There was no random. There was randomization process, but it was done in a cluster. By cluster, it means that the entire school or the entire organization or the entire cities were chosen as clusters or groups, and then they were randomly allocated to the intervention group and the control group. Two middle schools were randomly selected and assigned to the school conducting nutrition education or to the control school in the Mayan County. So in this county, in Beijing, uh, two schools were randomly selected and then randomly allocated to the control group or the nutrition education school. Individuals were not selected, the schools were selected. From each school, 65 seventh grade students were randomly selected to participate in the study. Further, in the second stage, students were selected randomly that were 65 in number in each school. Nutrition-related knowledge, attitudes, and behavior were measured at pre and post-intervention surveys with the same instrument. The nutrition education lasted for 6 months. After the intervention, more students in the nutrition education school knew the main function of dairy products and vegetables, which micronutrient is rich in dairy products, and beans and in meat, and the symptom of food poisoning than those in the control school. The rate of students who thought nutrition is very important to health and foods with an expired date should be thrown away in the nutrition school were higher than in the control school. The rate of students who ate vegetables and breakfast every day in the nutrition education school were higher than in the control group. This nutrition education program is affecting in improving adolescents' knowledge, attitudes, and behavior in relation to nutrition. Therefore, the nutrition education with interactive and innovative intervention components is strongly recommended for future nutrition programs for adolescents. So now, afterwards, we're going to look at the details, what interactive programs they did to improve the nutrition knowledge of the students. So the introduction is usually starts with the problem statement. Why there's a need for nutrition education. Overweight and obesity are globally fifth leading risks for mortality. At least 2.8 million adults die each year as a result of being overweight or obese. So in the start, they have started with obesity. Then they are moving on to the global burden of diabetes, ischemic heart disease, and cancers that are related to overweight and obesity. Now, afterwards, they are developing the rationale as the chronic diseases develop in adulthood, but they are associated with dietary and lifestyle risk factors that start in the childhood and adolescent years. So there is a need. Such studies suggest that obesity tracks into adulthood if it is present in adolescence. Further studies also indicate that adolescents are nutritionally vulnerable for a number of reasons, including their high nutrition requirements for growth, their eating patterns, their lifestyles, their risk taking behaviors, and susceptibility to environmental influences. As adolescents are influenced by the peer pressure, by the advertisements, by uh, their need to stay in the group, they are easily influenced, and that has been leading to overweight and obesity among adolescents that leads to chronic diseases in adulthood. Therefore, the promotion of nutrition from adolescent plays a vital long-term role in maintaining lifelong health. So now they have developed the rationale as the diseases that are occurring in adulthood age start from the adolescent. That's why there's a need for uh, providing nutrition education to adolescents. So now they are giving little demographics about China. Then they are giving their statistics of different obesity and different chronic diseases, cancers, obesity among Chinese. These are general demographics of the Chinese. Hence, adolescents' nutrition health in China form an indispensable, that's mean very important, that cannot be waived off, essential part for sustainable development of adolescents themselves and the country as a whole. Furthermore, the National Survey on Nutrition among children aged 0 to 6 also stated that in rural areas, undernutrition is 3 to 4 times higher in the rural areas. So there's a worse rate of obesity in the urban areas, and so they are stating that there is a double burden of malnutrition in rural areas, undernutrition, and in urban areas, overweight and obesity. So there is very limited published research focusing on improving adolescents' nutrition in the rural areas. So therefore, this study is aimed at evaluating a nutrition education program to improve the nutrition of the adolescents in rural areas. Material and methods. This study received ethical clearance from Griffith University, Australia. They have given the ethical approval a number, and from Peking University, China, IRB number has been given. Each participant was provided with full information about the study. Informed written consent was obtained both from students and their guardians. This is a brief description of the ethical concerns that was addressed in this study. What was the study design? Let us see. After getting the permissions from the education committee and the county authorities, a cluster randomized intervention trial design was employed to examine this effect. So what was cluster? I explained to you earlier that instead of selecting individuals, groups are selected, then randomly allocated into the control group and the experimental group. And by intervention, it means that it was not an observational study, it was an interventional study, experimental study. And as uh, it was an experimental study, therefore it was also called a trial design. Two schools were randomly selected from 15 middle schools in rural areas of this county. These two schools were then randomly assigned to either nutrition education school or the control school that was without the nutrition education. Same instrument was used for the assessment of knowledge, attitudes, and practices. The pre-intervention survey was conducted in July 12, and then the intervention was implemented in September till May for 6 months, excluding the winter holidays. And again, after 1 year, the pre-test, the post-test was conducted in June 2013. So, although the study was only assessing the impact of nutrition education on only knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors, that is a short-term measurement of a program, but it expanded its post-test to 1 year. The sample were seventh grade students in those schools. Middle schools in China contain three schools from grade 7 to grade 9 because the grade 8 students would upgrade to grade 9 after the baseline survey, and because students needed to prepare for the entry exam for high schools during this year, we considered that the extensive academic pressure would preclude them from participating in the intervention with enthusiasm and energy. We excluded this group from our study. 8th and 9th graders were not selected because of the academic pressure. Therefore, the first year of the middle school was selected. The grade 9 students would graduate from the middle school and go to different high schools after the baseline survey. So, bearing in mind the difficulty of tracing them, we also excluded this group from our study, as the next year would start from March and the post-test was planned in June 13. Therefore, as they would be shifting and they would be shifting from the school or the grade 9ers and the grade 8th students who would be preparing for the grade 8 exams and moving to higher classes, they were excluded from the study, and only 1 year was taken. This was done to control for confounders. Confounders are the other factors that can have an effect on the outcome. Okay, was the sample size calculation. We are not going to get into detail of the sample size collection. The total number was 126.56 in each group. What was the instrument? The instrument for the study was a 27-item self-administered structured questionnaire designed in Chinese. So this was in local language, and self-administered means that it could be the students can solve it themselves. It has 27 questions. It was structured. It means there were no open-ended questions. All the answers were pre-written, and they just had to click the right option. The questionnaire was divided into four main sections to assess demographic characteristics, knowledge, attitude, and behavior in relation to nutrition. Four sections there: demographics पे, knowledge पे, attitude पे, और behavior पे. Section A, the personal information, and section C, food frequency consumption, were derived from the questionnaire used in the 2004 China Adolescent Behavioral Risk Factor, a survey designed by Institute of Child and Adolescent Health, Peking University. Section C examined respondents' food frequency and aimed at investigating weekly frequency of consumption of all the major food groups. This questionnaire has been pre-tested on a small sample before its use in China. So it's pre-testing, and from where the questionnaire was taken has been explained in quite detail over here. Section B was derived from two English questionnaires which comprise 10 nutrition knowledge items, each with 5 responsive categories structured in different ways. The nutrition knowledge items included the main function of necessary nutrients, which food was richer in certain nutrients, the symptom and causes of food poisoning. The mean Cronbach alpha score was 0.73 and 0.57 with a test retest reliability of 0.8. So the reliability of the questionnaire has been tested, and the Cronbach assesses the internal consistency of the questionnaire. By internal consistency, we mean that all the questions are related with one another, and a questionnaire which has an internal consistency of more than zero point 0.5 is considered to be a good questionnaire. And the test retest reliability means that if the test is administered twice, same results are obtained, and this means that the questionnaire is has been so worded that it is understandable easily. Test retest reliability of zero point 0.7 mean more than zero point 0.7 means that it was easily understood. It was translated by a Chinese who had a bachelor degree of arts, majored in English, and then engaged in research focusing on nutrition promotion. So she is proficient in Chinese and English and familiar with the terms on nutrition. This section is giving us information about first about reliability and then the quality of the data of the translation. Section D, attitudes towards nutrition, was designed by relevant experts. It investigated students' attitudes towards nutrition, health, and dietary habits, and food with an expired consumption date, and the mean Cronbach alpha score of this section was 0.665. So from this data, we can say that the questionnaire was a reliable questionnaire. Each questionnaire took about 20 minutes to complete. Standardization of the questionnaire was also ensured by carrying out a pilot study on 70 students randomly selected from the same rural area. Following the pilot study, minor adjustments such as deleting unnecessary options in the questions and simplifying the language were made to the questionnaire prior to commencement of the study. The questionnaires were completed in the classroom. Investigator who was in charge of collecting the questionnaires was a Chinese national fluent in Mandarin who had received prior training skills of conducting survey. So again and again, they are explaining how they ensured quality in data collection. Now let's have a look at what interventions they executed for the imparting of nutrition education. The Nutrition Education School undertook a nutrition education which included three components: conducting in-class nutrition curriculum, organizing peer support activities, and distributing knowledge brochures. So there were three elements. Nutrition was imparted as a curriculum, as a subject. They were peer support activities. It means that there were interactive activities that were between the students themselves, and brochures were distributed. The control school did not receive the above nutrition education. All the three elements were not provided to the control school. The core component of the intervention in any school was determined according to Chinese resident dietary guidelines, which include the definition and importance of a balanced diet. So the curriculum was derived from Chinese residents' dietary guidelines. The components were importance of a balanced diet, functions of nutrients, nutrient deficiencies. Sorry, I have moved upwards. Functions of the nutrients, nutrient deficiencies, their effects, how to supplement necessary nutrients, reasonably good hygienic practices, and food safety. How they standardized their nutrition education classes. There were a total of 26 sessions, and there was one class of nutrition. To make it feasible and efficient, we incorporated this 15 minutes in class curriculum into a regular 40 minutes class. 15 minutes per week does not take a long time, and it does not affect students' learning. So the school authorities were willing to allow that. On the other hand, the in-class nutrition curriculum was a part of a regular class, so we did not find an extra suitable place, did not need to find an extra suitable place for it. All students attended, and accordingly, it lowered the running cost and guaranteed a high attendance rate. So, as it was not a separate class or after school class, as it was part of maybe the health education class, we'll see afterwards what was it was part of. Therefore, each and every student attended it. To guarantee in addition, we asked a teacher who already taught the target students in school to help us to give the in-class nutrition curriculum to make students feel comfortable with the learning environment and absorb the information given. So their regular teacher was involved in it, not an outsider or the researcher himself provided the curriculum. To guarantee the quality of this curriculum, we gave the teachers training on nutrition knowledge and teaching skills and arranged an oral examination on training outcomes prior to the intervention. So, this the teacher who was imparting this curriculum was given training in giving teaching skills and training in how to handle intervention. Secondly, they organize the peer support activities for students once every month, altogether 6 times. This peer support activity took about 30 minutes to avoid students wasting time during the peer support activity and to boost efficiency, we provided the form and topic of each peer support activity to students a week earlier to allow them to prepare by, for example, gathering relevant information, making presentation cards, or rehearsing the debate. During the process of peer support activity, students could seek help or guidance from a teacher if they wanted, but teacher was not allowed to interfere or change the way students behaved. So either there were peer support activities, they were given a topic and a date. They had to prepare a debate, they had to make presentations, or they may have to make a role play. And students were given free liberty to use whatever approach they want to. This approach guaranteed that students were able to conduct their own peer support activity independently for maximum effect and obtain necessary instructions to disseminate correct information at the same time. So, this is a type of self learning and expressing. This way, a person can ensure that the intervention was self-learned. Further, we also encourage students in the same group to share their experiences and help each other in daily life, not only during the peer support activity to strengthen their bond and connection with each other. Restricted by limited funds and limited human resources, the study selected a nutrition-related knowledge brochure as the main promotional material. We distributed a 3-page nutrition knowledge brochure to students twice, the first in September and the second in December 12. So, as they had a little financial support, they could only provide nutrition education brochures twice. Now, this is the details of the statistical analysis they did. We are going to just have a look at what were the main results. The main results have been given in descriptive form. First, they have given the sample characteristics, then results of the knowledge, then attitudes, and then behavior. So I'm just going to go through the tables and explain to you what were their main findings. As you can see, the first question was grains and cereals are the main energy source. In the pre-intervention group, as you can see, 63.1% of the students thought that it's correct, and only 42 in the control group thought. So there was a difference in the baseline too. Therefore, the p-value is less than 0.05. But afterwards, it rose significantly in this group. It rose in this group too by 17 points, and this is usually by the testing effect. So this is statistically significant. Breakfast is more important cereal, this also increased. The results were almost similar in the pre-intervention and the post-intervention. It improved. People should drink at least 6 glasses of water each day. As you can see, this rate increased afterwards and this rate increased afterwards. The control groups were not given any nutrition education, but you are seeing it over here that their results were also increasing. Why? Because this is a known fact. When a is person is tested for something, the next time he tries to find an answer to that question, and the next time he is improved on that question. So there are slight improvements in the control group too. And as you can see that there is some element of bias present in the selection of the control and the nutrition education school. As you can see at the baseline, their answers are very unsimilar. If there is some factor that is different in between the two schools. See over here again, you can see that the answers are unsimilar even at the baseline, but generally from the results it can be seen that there was an increase in knowledge, and the 6 months program was effective in giving them nutrition education. So nutrition education तो very obviously उनकी improve होनी ही थी. But we will have a look at the attitudes. The first attitude that they have covered, attitudes towards the importance of nutrition to health. At the pre-intervention, uh, the nutrition education group thought 84% thought that it was significant. At afterwards, 93% thought so. At the control group, 78, and then at 18. So the difference was statistically significant at the post test, and attitudes towards importance of developing healthy dietary patterns was also statistically significant at the statistically different at the pre-test and after at the post-test too. Attitudes towards food within expiry date, it was not statistically different at the pre-intervention. Afterwards, at the post-intervention, it was different. The nutrition education school participants had improved knowledge that the expiry date should be considered. I'll not go into the discussion. We'll just have a look at the tables. Table 3 was adoption rate of healthy eating behaviors. Now this is towards the practices part. The first part was the knowledge, what they knew. The second part was attitudes, what they thought. And the last is the behavior. This is the practices. This is what difference made on their practices. If you have the behaviors they assessed were drinking no soft drinks, eating no desserts, eating no fried food. 3 questions were negatively phrased, 3 questions were of bad habits, and the rest of the 4 questions were regarding having good habits. Eating fresh fruits every day, eating vegetables every day, drinking at least 1 glass of milk every day, and eating breakfast every day. 4 practices were good. If we have a look at the p-values, we will see that there were no significant differences regarding these practices. Eating no fried foods. There was a significant increase eating no fried foods at the post intervention among the nutrition education school. Then again, this one. So at post intervention, the nutrition education school was eating more vegetables per day. Then again, no difference, no difference. And the last, eating breakfast every day had a significant difference. It rose from 69 to 89 by 20%. This one improved. So there was an improvement in eating breakfast, eating more vegetables, and eating no fried food. One negative trait and two positive traits. This is a discussion that what were their main findings, how their program was relevant, what advantages or disadvantages they had, what limitations they faced during their study, and what could be improved, and what are further recommendations they suggest for curriculum development and for nutrition education interventions. What were their main highlights? At the last, they are acknowledging their funding and then the references, what citations they used for this research. So you can read the discussion on your own. I'll be posting this on the in the group. So I hope so that you have an idea of how the programs are conducted. And in the next class, inshallah, we are going to have a look at another article, and we are going to see how different nutrition education programs are executed, how they are assessed, and what they interventions or what nutrition techniques they employ to collect and report data. This will help you in planning your own programs. So I'll be signing off from here. Allah Hafiz. See you